I'm Elaine, Jolliffe, Aditya, Vanshika,
Krishna,
Sona Joseph,
Nityam, Chaudhary.
Vanshika, madan.
Akshadha, Asawari, gawande.
Happy World's Pilot Day to all the captivating pilots.
Hi, I'm Elaine Jolliffe. I'm a student of class 10, currently waiting for my board results. I study in Bharati Public School, NTPC Khargone in Indore. My aviator question for you is that in the near future, with AI becoming such a strong force and technology taking over most aspects of life, is it possible that the job of an airline pilot could eventually be replaced by artificial intelligence? Thank you.
Hi, myself Krishna, pursuing in 12th in Gaudium School, Hyderabad. My question is regarding the takeover of manual jobs by artificial intelligence. So from past few years, artificial intelligence have been taking over many jobs, and it is currently being implemented into aviation field like self-flown aircraft or automatic aircraft. So in future, if aviation is under the control of artificial intelligence, how is it going to affect current pilots and upcoming pilots? Thank you.
Yeah, hi Elaine and Metli. So your question is quite good. Aircraft is quite capable right now. There used to be 4 crew members. There was a time when the 4 crew members used to fly the aircraft. There used to be a flight engineer and navigator. Now gradually we came down to a situation where there are only 2 pilots, and that also the aircraft is very much capable of flying with single pilot because the 2 pilots are kept for the redundancy, so that something happens to one pilot, at least there is another one as a backup. And there has been instances where one pilot has fallen sick, and because of which the second pilot has taken over and all. And very same reason, the food which is given to the pilots came from the different vendors, so that if there is any instance of food poisoning, so it should not happen to both the pilots. So system is capable, or we can say with little bit of enhancement, we can actually reach to a stage where pilots are not required in the air. But the very important factor which you are actually celebrating World Pilots Day is faith. The faith we have in the pilots that they are the one who will take care of us in the air. Okay, and that is the human factor which I would say is important. So I do not see that in the coming time the pilots are being taken out of the cockpit, which is possible, but it won't happen because we are carrying the humans. Okay, if it is a case of a weapon, we may actually do it like because there is a risk of the life to the pilot flying the aircraft and all, so we can do some autonomous missions and all. But while carrying the passengers, I do not see a possibility that the pilots are coming out. We are actually at the optimum level where only 2 pilots are required. I have discussed and asked people that what about the autonomous aircraft, and they are very excited, even the autonomous cars and autonomous aircraft. And when I asked them, would you be comfortable to fly in an aircraft which is not being flown by pilots, only the computer is flying, and they said no. So that's what the feedback is. You are excited about this technology, but you do not have that faith on that technology. Okay, and maybe the cargo aircraft in the coming time, since they are not carrying the humans, there might be a possibility. But on an average, the majority of the pilot, I would say the 80% of the flights are carrying the passengers. So you can be assured that the pilot profession is quite safe. Thank you.
My question for the OFLY aviators is that when the pilot is about to land the plane and there is less visibility or no visibility, what methods do pilot use for the landing? Thank you.
Hello, young aviator and future pilot. Yes, pilots do not land the plane when they cannot see the runway. That's very clear. But there is a system which helps the pilots to land during low visibility. It is called the Instrument Landing System, or the ILS. It is a set of radio signals combined, and the signals which have been transmitted from the ground is received by the aircraft, and it is being displayed in a particular instrument which tells the pilot to steer the plane exactly and to land the plane safely on a runway. Thank you.
My name is Asawari, gawande, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm from district Wardha, city Hinghanghat, taluka Samudrapur. And my question is, how often are you flying with autopilot? Thank you.
Hello Asawari, I am Captain Himanshu and I have been an aviator for the last 27 years. That's a very interesting and a very common question that I am asked. And the answer is that generally the takeoff and landing is done manually by the pilots. And after takeoff at any height, we can engage the autopilot. And we can disengage the autopilot at heights as low as maybe 500 to 200 feet before the landing. But that does not mean that the pilot does not have any other work to do once the autopilot is engaged. To give you a simple example, consider that there's a car being driven by a driver, and let's call this driver as the autopilot, and you, who's called the pilot, is sitting on the left seat. Now this driver who's sitting on the right seat, he does not know where the car is to be taken, what is the path to be followed, and also he cannot hear what the ATC is saying. Only the person sitting on the left side, who is the pilot, can hear what the ATC is saying. So now there has to be some means by which this pilot can keep telling the autopilot who's driving the car as to where to go, where to turn left, where to turn right, where to stop, and so on. And also, if the ATC is giving any instructions, that also needs to be executed through the pilot by the autopilot. Alright, so with that analogy, on the aircraft, we have a common system on most of the aircraft called the FMS, Flight Management System, in which we can plan the navigation. So the aircraft will follow that route. And while we are communicating with the ATC and taking clearances, we control the autopilot control panel to tell the autopilot that we need to climb to a certain altitude, or we need to descend, or things like that, and navigate through the path that has been clear to us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Akshadha and I'm from grade 8, Canary School, Hyderabad. I heard that many of the pilots are trained to control their emotions during intake of flight. So, my question is, what was your first reaction after successfully landing your first flight?
Hey, this is Prithviraj and I just can't forget the day I had my first solo. It was the 5th of June 2021. I remember being extremely nervous and anxious because I had to take this aircraft, the Diamond DA-40, up in the air all by myself and bring it back on the ground safely. I remember on the finals, just before touchdown, I was excited but also very nervous because it was windy, it was gusting, and I had to make a smooth landing. Thankfully, it was a wonderful smooth landing, and I quickly went up to the parking stands, parked the aircraft, and I was overwhelmed with joy and excitement. The very fact that I had just taken a metal body weighing over a ton up in the air against gravity and I had gotten it back on the ground safely was just a mind-blowing fact. It was easily one of the best days of my life and a very, very enjoyable experience. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Bhavana of grade 9. I study at Jain Heritage Cambridge School in Hyderabad. I'm very happy that I've got this opportunity. So, Solar Impulse 2 was the first solar-powered aircraft to circumnavigate the Earth without any fuel. My question is, can commercial flight also be solar-powered like this? If not, can it at least be 50% solar-powered?
Good morning, Bhavana. It's so great to hear from you regarding your concern for the environment and asking a question how the aviation can be made more environment friendly. I'm Captain Pankaj Bajaj, who has been into the aviation for the last 27 years and in the commercial aviation for the last 3 years flying commercial helicopters. I also feel sometimes why the flying cannot be environment friendly. As you brought out, Solar Impulse 2 has really proven that an aircraft can be flown with the help of solar energy around the globe, can be sustained in the air for a very long period of time. But yes, there is a difference between a technologically demonstrative aircraft and the actual aircraft flying on the solar power. If you compare the conventional flying aircraft with a solar powered aircraft, you would realize that a solar powered aircraft requires a huge space to fit all these photovoltaic cells which can generate enough amount of electricity and powers which can sustain the aircraft in the air. Comparatively, if you take a conventional aircraft and a conventional fuel, it generates much higher power per unit of the fuel used as compared to what the solar power will be able to give us. Yes, these technologies which are being developed will slowly walk into the aviation sector as the technology becomes more viable and more efficient. First thing is the cost of fitment of the solar powered cells onto the aircraft, which are yet very prohibitive and costly. Second thing is its maintenance, and third is the space required to fit them. The amount of space available on the conventional aircraft is not sufficient enough that these energies which are derived from the solar cells would be able to sustain the aircraft in the air and generate the speed at which they fly. We are looking at partial replacement of some of these sectors wherein we can utilize this energy. But once the technology is ready, it has to be proven and thereafter it has to be approved. Currently, we are into the phase where the technologies are moving in but are not approved as of now. So you will find, Bhavana, that over a period of time in the coming years, more and more technologies get improved, approved, and thereafter find their way into the conventional aircrafts, replacing some part of the fuel and thus making flying more economically and environmentally effective. Thank you and good wishes.
My name is Aditya. I'm in 9th grade, studying in Venkateshwar Global School with veterinary engineering. The question is, during an hijacking, we are at a backdrop. We are confined at one place and we cannot run, and the hijackers have ammunition. Why can't we have secret ammunition in the plane? Just before the cockpit, there should be a locker which required a code, and when the locker is open, it could provide us some ammunition, and the code would be available to the pilot or any crew. It could have also sent a distress signal to the authorities, and it could help as a way to keep ourselves safe from the hijackers.
Hello Aditya, I am Captain Himanshu and I've been an aviator for the last 27 years. You have brought out a very interesting concept about hijacking of the aircraft. Now this is a topic for which the countermeasures or the actions that the aircraft industry or the regulator take from time to time, they have been evolving and changing. And the last major evolving or evolution which happened was after the 9/11 in United States of America. And that was the point when firstly the cockpit doors became bulletproof doors which had to be kept locked at all times, and no passenger or no non-crew member was allowed inside the cockpit once the aircraft was in flight. So this was a major change. Now these bulletproof cockpit doors cannot be opened from outside unless somebody from inside the cockpit authorizes the opening of the door. Okay, so that has been one major change. Coming to your point about ammunition, in my opinion, ammunition, whether it is held by the hijackers or by the passengers, is dangerous to the flight itself, because you will understand that the aircraft flying at 30,000 feet plus, the atmosphere outside is very rare, and if any bullet is fired inside the aircraft, it is quite likely that it is going to pierce the hull of the aircraft or the skin of the aircraft at some point, whether it hits a passenger or the hijacker, that's besides the point. Now if that piercing happens, the pressurization on the aircraft would be lost, and there would be a requirement for the aircraft to descend down below 10,000 feet, because the human body can sustain comfortably at the oxygen levels available below 10,000 feet. So that is known as an emergency descent, and that will have to be executed if the fuselage was to get punctured because of a bullet hole also. So that is one major problem because of which ammunition is absolutely not recommended on board. However, I'm not really ruling out the suggestion that you're giving. Maybe in the future it does become a norm, but again it will have to have probably one more round of incidents of similar nature happening. But just for information, there are certain marshals, the air marshals as we call them, they are available on board on certain flights which are considered to be sensitive, and if there is any intel that there is a likely hijack or a possibility of a hijack on this particular flight, there are air marshals available on board, which as passengers you will never come to know, but they are armed and they carry the ammunition and the arms along with them. Thank you.
Hello, I am Sona Joseph. I live in New Delhi. I am currently in grade 12 of Holy Child Senior Secondary School. My question is, the autopilot can handle most mechanisms of the entire flight except the takeoff. Why cannot it handle the takeoff? The flight systems like Airbus has the fly-by-wire technology, and the other systems reduce the constant manual control required. Will there ever be a time when pilots won't be required to operate an aircraft?
Hi, that's a nice question. Why don't we use autopilot for takeoff? In order to answer that, let's actually discuss what autopilot is first and how it functions. So that way we can correlate why we don't use autopilot for takeoff. So let's begin with the technical term for autopilot. It's actually auto-flight control system. So the autopilot system relies on various inputs from different sensors around the aircraft in order to get the information like airspeed, altitude, direction, wind speed, etc. So we usually use autopilot for climb, cruise, descent, and even for landings in some aircrafts. So when do we engage autopilot? So it's different from aircraft to aircraft based on their limitations, standard operating procedures, and it's usually after takeoff, after passing about 400 feet to 1,000 feet or above, or as per the pilot's discretion. So why don't we use autopilot for takeoff? To answer the question, see, the takeoff is the most critical phase of the flight, and the pilots need to be in complete control of the aircraft. So the decision to take off or to abort the takeoff, sometimes it may have to be taken in a split of a second, which actually depends on several factors, internally or externally. I believe it's only a pilot who can be a better judge and decide the best course of action with a very good situational awareness than any computer or any artificial intelligence. So in the near future, can we expect autopilot taxi and takeoff? Well, answer maybe yes, it's possible. There have been several studies and tests going on for the automatic taxi and takeoff, which Airbus is actually doing. And the technical term what they have given for that is ATOL. It's called autonomous taxiing, takeoff and landing. So as we discussed how the autopilot takes the input, it takes the input from several internal as well as external sources. So the information from flight instruments and GPS, ILS, etc. So but in the case of using autopilot for taxi or takeoff, the system needs a lot of visual information. Rather, I would say a complete visual based system which uses advanced cameras, which can basically look for the centerline marking, touchdown markings, and etc. The visual information is actually fed into a computer where an algorithm is designed to interpret what it sees, and at the same time, it has to correlate to the position using the GPS. How precisely a correction needs to be done, catering for the crosswinds and the external conditions. So for this system to work efficiently, we need very good external markings. And it's again, end of the day, the pilot is required to monitor the system, and he has to take it over in case of any issue. So even if an automatic taxi or takeoff is done, it's the pilot who is responsible end of the day. So thank you.
My name is Nityam Chaudhary. I study in the Heritage School Rohini, 11th standard, and I live in Delhi. My question is that in emergency situations like the failure of extension of landing gear and the failure of all the engines on the plane, how is the plane landed safely, keeping in mind the well-being of all the passengers?
Hi Nityam, my name is Prakash Patel, working in this aviation industry since last 11 years at various position and in various company. You have very good questions. First of all, first question is regarding a landing gear extension. In case of normal landing gear extension will not happen. Pilot will follow alternate landing gear extension procedure. By this procedure, pilot can extend landing gear and can land safely without any damage to the aircraft or any passenger. Second question is in case of all engine fails during flight. This is a rare situation where all engine can fail during flight, like you seen in Hudson River incident. Any bird strike or fuel starvation situation can lead to both or all engine fails during flight. In that situation, pilot have been trained for landing without engine power available. In that situation, pilot can find a field where he can land aircraft safely and follow all procedures. In any situation, aircraft will not fall like a rock. Aircraft have an ability to glide approximately 3 nautical mile travel per every 1000 feet. By this, pilot can do safe landing with gliding and with all procedures without engine power available also. Thank you.
Greetings, my name is Javjeevan Singh of Amit International School, and I am currently studying in grade 12, and I am a resident of Gaudium. So my question is that as we see a growing trend in artificial intelligence, what are the other ways we can integrate AI and aviation other than the common applications like autopilots, etc.?
Hi Javjeevan Singh, I am Tirumurugan. I am an aviator for the last 15 years, specializing in aircraft maintenance engineering trainings. You have an interesting question in terms of artificial intelligence and how it can be merged with or how it can be included in the aircraft or further aviation systems. In terms of artificial intelligence integration into the aircraft is already a sophisticated product which needs to operate safely. So considering the safety as a primary concern, I'm sure the manufacturers and the regulatory authorities are ensuring that the automation or the system improvements, system enhancements, whichever is being done in the product, is not affecting the safety. But you are right in giving a thought in terms of artificial intelligence to be expanding its scope where it can be used further and further. So maybe artificial intelligence can be thought about using in ground operations or maintenance operations or maybe in other support systems or support services. And then further, gradually, as the confidence is made available with the data, then the artificial intelligence can be further thought about to be included in the aircraft and its system, as well as further enhancements which can be possible in the product. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Poshika Bhavani from grade 10 Jain Heritage Academy School, Kondapur. I wanted to know a brief about how do the different parts of an airplane work together to keep the aircraft in the air, and how does it help in its overall performance? Thank you.
How different parts of an aircraft helps to keep it on air. So, if I can put it in a simple term, the aircraft, different parts, I can relate it with the human body. How different parts of the human body function together to keep us active. So it's basically the brain which coordinates each and every body part. Similarly, it's the pilot who actually uses each and every part of the aircraft to fly it. So even if one part or one component of the aircraft is not doing well or it's degraded, the operations will be challenging, and the pilot has to deal with it.
Hello, my name is Vanshika Madan. I'm studying in class 12 from Delhi Kannad Senior Secondary School, Lodhi Estate, New Delhi. I also have a dream to become a pilot. In the occasion of World Pilot Day, I really want to ask one question, that is, what is the strangest thing you ever have to seen in the sky during a flight? Thank you.
Hello, Vanshika Madan. Good question. Strange things in the sky. Good. So once I've seen a strange ray of light passing through. That was a recent one, maybe around 4-5 years back. Prior to that, I've seen a lighted object moving very fast high up in the sky. But that was not in India, somewhere north, up north, somewhere close to 50 degrees north latitude. So later I was advised that it could be a moving satellite that I've seen on a clear night sky. So all the way it could be a satellite. Thank you.